This is Tips for Travellers. Inspiration, advice, and tips on finding and having amazing travel experiences on both land and at sea. Get more tips on must-see and must-do travel at tipsfortravellers.com.
Hi, I'm Gary Bembridge, and this is another episode of Tips for Travellers. I just want to let you know before we get into today's topic, which is 10 reasons to do a European river cruise, that today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download, a 30-day free trial by simply visiting tipsfortravellers.com/audible. That's tipsfortravellers.com/audible, and I'll put a link in the show notes. You can choose from over 180,000 titles. You can play them on your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or your MP3 player. So that's tipsfortravellers.com/audible, free audiobook download, 30-day free trial. So let's get into today's topic. As I mentioned, it's about 10 reasons to do a European river cruise. River cruising is growing enormously. It's becoming very popular. And of course, it's really focused very much on Europe. So I thought I'd, based on my various experiences of river cruises, is pull together reasons to do it. Now, you may have already decided you want to do a river cruise, and so this is really just confirmation you're doing the right thing. Or you're just thinking, do I want to do a river cruise? Don't I want to do a river cruise? So hopefully this will help you. So let's get stuck into the reasons. Reasons number 1 is a river cruise will immerse you in and give you a great feel for a region within Europe. You know, river cruises, they aim to really connect passengers with local cultures, both on the ship and off the ship. So they visit a number of places over a week. Most of the river cruises are a week, some of them are a little bit longer. And the idea is to get you to see a cross-section of key places, key attractions within an area. So you might travel along a section of the Danube or the Rhine or the Rhone or wherever, and they are quite sort of immersive. So you don't travel very far on a river cruise every day. You stop a lot, you get out and look at a lot of places, so you really get immersed into a particular place. What's also great about river cruises, and the way it really immerses you and gives you a great feel, is you dock in the heart of the city. You almost always dock right in the heart of the city, so it's very easy to stroll into town, to explore local markets, to go to the sites beyond the tours. River cruises also, unlike ocean cruises, tend to stay in port overnight, or they will often not sail overnight a lot. So it also gives you time in the evenings to get out and experience the nightlife as well. So it is a much more immersive process. Most European river cruise lines, they'll run port talks. They will have perhaps organized tours by specialists, local guides, and most of those are included in the fare. So a couple of the cruise lines, so like Across Europe, doesn't include the excursions and the tours within their fare. You can buy a package, but most of them are all inclusive, and they include these walking tours by local guides. They're always local guides, so you are really getting it from people who know and feel the local countryside. They often will bring local entertainers, so, you know, local folk singers or dancers or whatever on board. So again, that gives you an immersive experience. And the menus and the drinks served with the menus are normally tailored to where you are. So as you're passing through a particular region, the food will be tailored. So for example, I was once on a Uniworld Danube cruise, and as you pass through different countries, the menu would reflect that very specific section of the river that we're traveling along. So it really immerses you into a very specific region in Europe. So that's one good reason. It's a very immersive experience. The second is, you know, going on a European river cruise is going to give you a chance to explore absolutely significant and very historic rivers. So you've got rivers like the Danube, the Rhine, the Seine, the Rhone, the Loire River even, which I went on recently. So these are the famous rivers of Europe, and you get to explore these very important rivers. And a lot of history has happened along these rivers. They're very fundamentally important to the countries they pass through, and you get to really understand their significance. You know, a lot of history and a lot of towns, that's how they start, because they need water. They start along the riverside. So, you know, you see the most amazing things and hear the most amazing parts of history. The third reason is around safety and security. You know, one of the great things about going on a river cruise is you've got a tour manager, you've got lots of guests, they're always around to help. always looking out for you, keeping you company. So you have the sense of safety and security of always traveling with people. And the river cruise lines, they run along these routes constantly. They often, during a season will just be going up and down, repeating that itinerary. So they know the routes, they know how to deal with issues, they know how to deal with problems, and they have lots of connections on land. So if there's any issues, they know how to deal with those. So river cruising is particularly well suited if you don't want to travel through a foreign country, figure out the language, the customs, where to eat, what to see on your own. There's a sense of safety and security. It's a great thing. My fourth tip about why you might want to do European river cruise is you can unpack and pack once, despite visiting lots of different places. So you're not going to lose lots of your very valuable vacation time and even sightseeing time moving between destinations, because actually you're on the ship, you unpack, you're in a floating hotel. Your travel time is much less stressful because you're not able to, get to the airport, hang around the airport, and it becomes part of your sightseeing time because, as you sail down the rivers, you've got, stuff within touching distance. Certainly it's right around you. So your actual commuting time is actually sightseeing time. You're not having to sit around waiting for planes. Every single minute of your river cruise is a chance to relax, to sightsee. You're always close to the shore, as I said. And the problem is, if you're traveling destination to destination, changing hotels, if you're doing a similar itinerary, you end up living out of a suitcase and having to carry these suitcases around. Often if you go on an escorted tour, for example, you pretty much don't get out of your suitcase because you're changing hotels every day. But here you just unpack, you settle in for the duration. Fifth reason is you stay in comfortable rooms with a view. Rooms, you don't have inside cabins on river cruises. So you might have, those with, a little balcony, floor to ceiling, or you might just have a big picture window. But, the rooms are pretty comfortable, even on the value lines, but they're normally quite plush. They're not massively big, but they're pretty comfortable. And you always have a view. And it's great because as you sail down the river, you're always looking at something. The sixth reason is 5-star dining. Dining on river cruise, all the cruise lines is extremely well known and very highly regarded. You have great dining. So it depends a little bit on the cruise line what you get. So if you go on across Europe, you're not going to get a lot of choice, but you are going to get very French cuisine. If you go on more premium lines like Uniworld or like that, you're going to have 3-course meals with choices. You can have wine served with it. You might have afternoon tea as well. So it's really good, high quality dining. River cruise lines are really renowned for the caliber of their food. The seventh reason I put down was removes lots of the hassle in vacation planning. Once you've chosen your itinerary, right, I'm going to go on a Danube cruise, a Rhine cruise, you've chosen your cabin, everything's sorted out for you. You don't have to plan excursions, you don't have to make reservations at dining venues, you don't have to worry how you're going to get to destination, you don't have to worry about what you're going to see. It's all just organized. You basically just book it, you pay for it, pretty much everything's paid for as well because most of them are inclusive. You get there and it's done. And most of the river cruise lines will either include or certainly offer transfers. So you get to the airport, someone meets you, they take you to the ship, you take it back to the ship. So all of that hassle's gone. And, particularly if you're time pressed or you're just worried about finding a way through a foreign country, traveling through Europe with different languages or whatever, all that hassle is gone. My eighth reason, and I've already mentioned this or alluded to this a couple of times, is you have enormous certainty on the total cost of your vacation because they're pretty much all inclusive and there's very few added extras. So, your meals, most of them include your beverages, certainly with meals, often Wi-Fi, almost complimentary. Most of your excursions are usually included. So you don't have to budget, you don't have to have different currency to worry about drinks and Wi-Fi and meals. As I've already mentioned, some of the cruises will include transfers, gratuities, tours, so you pretty much know before you go, this is the cost of my cruise and everything that I'm going to be doing, what I'm going to eat, going to drink. So you might need a little bit of money, when you're out about to buy drinks during the day, perhaps, or obviously souvenirs. But it's really good because it's all inclusive. There's no hidden extras, and you know exactly what it's going to cost. Number 9 is, and this is quite an important one, I think, it's quite an intimate and often a very adult-only experience. River cruise ships have to be relatively small because they have to navigate on rivers. So it can be anything between 50 guests and up to about 180, 200 is the biggest boat you're ever going to be on, because they're limited both in terms of width, length, and also size, height, should I say, to get along the rivers. So they're quite small. So you maybe going to have 50 couples, or maybe 50 couples and some solo travelers or whatever. So it's quite easy to get to know everybody. It's quite intimate. It's quite informal. And the smaller guest numbers mean the crew will get to know you. They'll get to know you by name. They can spend more time on your needs. They can serve guests more personally, because normally for that amount of guests, you're going to have 25 or 30 crew. So it's a very good crew to passenger ratio. River cruising, some of them may cater to families, particularly in the really peak summer times in Europe, but it's very much still an adult's experience. River cruise boats and the itineraries tend to be quite historic, quite cultural. It's not really ideal for families and kids and stuff. I mean, some of the cruise lines are trying to attract it more, but it tends to be a more adult experience, and obviously a slightly older, 50s, 60s plus audiences as well. It is changing, but it tends to be very adult only. And my last point is, it is much more relaxing. It's much less stressful than a land-based tour. So obviously another option, if you wanted to do it, is to go on an escorted tour around the region, which would give you the same sense of immersion, etc. But as I already alluded to, you're not constantly changing hotels. You're not having to check in and out of hotels, pack, unpack, commute, all that kind of stuff. And you just unpack, and it's much less stressful. The ship just moves gently along, stops at various points of the time. You get out, you do a tour, it might move on again, and so on and so forth. It is definitely much less stressful. You really, really will find it just a really relaxing experience. Saying it's relaxing, though, it is pretty intense. River cruises tend to be full on, so you get up pretty sharpish in the morning. You'll be going on excursions. You might get back. The boat might travel a bit. You might have another excursion. There'll be dinner. And then so there's quite a lot going on. So it's not that it's not action packed. It is really busy. And one of the things I often say with river cruising is I'm quite surprised how full on and active it is, because there's a lot going on and lots of things to do. They really do pack in a lot of sightseeing within a cruise, but it is much less tiring in many ways than some of the options, certainly self-touring or even sometimes land-based tours. So there you have it. Those are 10 reasons for doing a European cruise based on my experience. Of course, if you have any other ideas or thoughts, I'd love to hear about those. And you can just go to the blog, tipsfortravellers.com, search for river cruising, and add those in, or you can drop me an email. You'll find all the links to everything in the show notes. And also you'll find a link to that chance for you to get a free audiobook download and your free trial at tipsfortravellers.com/audible. who are the sponsors of this particular podcast, and you can get over 180,000 titles to choose from. And even if after your 30-day free trial you decide you don't want to keep going, you still will keep that free audiobook download. And it'd be great if you did use that particular link to go there, because if you do, I get a small commission. It doesn't cost you anything extra. You don't pay anything extra, but I do get a small commission if you do subscribe to Audible that way. So that would be absolutely great. If this is the first time listening to the podcast, I really, really appreciate it. If you're a regular listener, again, thank you very much. I'd love you to subscribe to the podcast. I'd love you to leave a rating and a review. It helps me enormously. And to make that easy for you, I've got, again, some quick links, which, again, are in the show notes, tipsfortravellers.com/iTunes TFT, Stitcher TFT, Google Play TFT, or TuneIn TFT, and that'll take you there, and you can subscribe or leave a comment. So if you're thinking of going on a river cruise, I love river cruising. It's a fantastic experience, and I hope you have a really fantastic time.